So, finishing up both Kant and Hume for this week, I just wanted to offer a little summation here of what to really pay attention to as we move on from this third week, right? So, in the scope of Western philosophy, and especially like these two figures in particular, Hume and Kant, they really are at loggerheads with one another, right? Meaning the fact that like Hume thinks that again, epistemologically they're starting at very different places, right? Epistemologically, Hume is basing things in empiricism, that all of our knowledge is derived from experience, and what are experiences but perceptions, right? What we see, what we touch, what we feel, what we smell, what we hear, right? That's where the source of our knowledge really comes from. And then that extends, right? That extends to our moral, our moral decision making, right? That we should act in such ways that since we know how others are feeling, we should act in such ways that reflect that, and we should base our morality on our feelings, right? And there's still that space in that outlook that is subjective, that is, person to person, whimsical maybe a little bit, but Hume is okay with that, right? Because he thinks that again, reason comes secondary to emotion. Whereas with Kant, thinks that Hume is so wrong, right? Thinks that Hume is so off base. That morality and knowing how it is we ought to act can be discovered. It can be known, epistemologically speaking. And how is it known? It's known through our ability to reason. It's known through the a priori. Known through our ability to know how it is we ought to act in reference to our intentions and reference to our ability to reason, right? That we can know how it is we ought to act without going out and experiencing something first to test to see if it works or not, right? And so kind of in this space from this third week in our class, I really do hope that you can appreciate the tension between these two ethical outlooks, right? And that Kant is, again, kind of always hanging out in the background saying, well, what if everybody did as I am doing, right? What if everybody did everywhere and at all times did as I am doing, right? And how we are to apply that to our own lives and think about, what if everybody did as I am doing in this exact instance, right? When I'm walking across campus and I've got a gum wrap and I just throw it on the ground, I'm like, who cares? Screw it, right? Well, apply that to the categorical imperative. What if everybody, everywhere, and in all similar circumstances, whenever they wanted to get rid of some trash, just threw it on the ground? Is that really the kind of world that we want to live in? Secondarily, when we think about like how we should treat one another, right? Thinking about this idea that we should treat one another always as an end in ourselves, right? And never merely as a means. And what Kant has in mind here is that we shouldn't exploit people. We shouldn't use people for our own benefit. Because what we do when we do that is we dehumanize them, right? And so this idea of what Kant really gives us in response to Hume, because again, Hume is subjective, and I mean, Hume does have kind of that human component. He has that empathetic component, right, of knowing how it is we ought to act. But Kant comes down a little, again, more rigid. It comes down a little bit more in a rigid sense as it relates to his ethical outlook, right? So as you go into Friday, what I have you tasked for today / this weekend is that there was this movie that was put out a couple of years ago called The Invention of Lying. Okay? And I really like this movie. It stars Ricky Gervais and Jennifer Garner. And I would love you all to watch it, right? And like think about it in terms, and I mean it's gonna go a very different direction than maybe Kantian philosophy. But one of the questions that we have from Kant is this question on our unqualified duty to always tell the truth, right? And this idea that for Kant, he thinks that when we lie, we break the categorical imperative, right? And when we lie to one another, what we're doing is we're violating the second formulation of the categorical imperative because I'm using you in a way by withholding the truth, right? And so this movie supposes a reality by which everybody tells the truth all the times, in all circumstances, and in all ways. Okay? And then eventually someone learns how to lie. Okay? And so thinking about this kind of and this is like a playful assignment, right? This is a fun thing. So maybe watch it with some family members, watch it with your partner, watch it with some friends. It's a funny, kind of fun movie. So, but thinking about it in the context of lying and maybe what Kant had to say about lying. Okay. So I hope you enjoyed this third week. Enjoy the invention of lying. Again, you might have to pay a couple bucks for it, but hopefully it's worth it. You might be able to find it on a streaming service. I'm unsure about that. And I hope you enjoy it. And we will get cracking next week with existentialism. Have a great weekend, everybody. You can see your assignment that is due by Sunday night, midnight. And I hope that you've enjoyed this third week. See y'all.